Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
Hopefully you are all well and healthy because we are going to talk about the National Health Insurance Administration in today's program and some other problems that we have with it. And last time, of course, we talked about the problems of ERs. They're kind of overcrowded. So if there's a big disaster, they may not be able to take care of everybody. And today we're going to talk about some other problems with the National Health Insurance System. Yeah, it's got some problems, and I suppose any national health system or organization is going to have problems because that stuff is expensive, and taxpayers have to pay for that.
Yeah, most of the national healthcare systems around the world are suffering from a lack of money. They don't have enough money.
How could that happen?
We're losing doctors because they don't want to do it anymore. We started talking about how one particular disaster showed or explored or exposed some flaws in the medical system here, and that was that awful fire. I would say it was an explosion that occurred at the Formosa Fun Coast Water Park in Bali. Oh, it was so sad. And even today, we're still reading about people in the news that, after suffering for months and months, continue to pass away.
Yeah, I'm wondering if those people have all recovered.
No, there's some in the hospital still.
Yeah, it's not really big headlines now if just one or two people die or something.
It's so sad, though.
Every once in a while, they do give us an update. That is an important story in itself.
Yeah.
But we're actually talking about the problem that it helped expose. One, the overcrowding at the ERs, but also we're going to talk about some other problems with the National Health Insurance Administration. As you might expect, they're short of money, and some people are kind of thinking, what are we going to do about this?
Yeah.
Because, people are getting more and more sick all the time. We're getting older and older. So what the heck are we going to do if the National Health Program goes bankrupt? Oh, gee, well, I hope that doesn't happen, but let's find out what this article is all about. Let's read through the entire contents right now. The water park explosion exposed more problems than overcrowding in ERs. It also revealed some troubling issues that could indicate a coming medical collapse. Under the current NHI system, hospitals apply to National Health Insurance Administration for reimbursements after they provide medical services for patients. However, because of the system's flaws, hospitals and doctors have always been shortchanged. This is especially unfavorable to intensive care. Unlike other medical specialties, intensive care requires substantial manpower and resources, and underpaid reimbursement means intensive care is forced to operate at a loss. In a sense, some medical experts argue this situation suggests that intensive care is punished for saving lives. What's worse, since intensive care is seen as a losing proposition, it tends to be ignored in terms of investment. Without outside funds to supplement salary, the already underpaid personnel are put in an even worse predicament. Ultimately, these drawbacks could result in intensive care units becoming critically understaffed as fewer and fewer doctors are willing to join the section. Most people are probably unaware that the relatively inexpensive medical services provided by the NHI have been built on the sacrifices of hard-working medical professionals. How can Taiwan's healthcare system have a bright future if its medical personnel are not properly treated? Asked a veteran doctor. That's why it's important to reform the NHI system and pay medical professionals what they deserve. The government must also examine whether health insurance should continue to be a form of social welfare or change to an actual insurance program. Finally, officials must work at convincing the public that they need to accept higher premiums and co-payments when necessary so that the medical services provided across the country will still be available in the future.
So we know that the water park explosion revealed or exposed more problems than just the overcrowding that we experience in ERs. It also revealed some troubling issues that bother people, issues that should be of concern to us, that could indicate a coming medical collapse. If you collapse yourself, it means you fall down, right? Sometimes you work so hard you feel like you're going to collapse. But here, if you talk about an institution or an organization collapsing, it's usually referring to them failing, and failing quite suddenly and completely. So we hope that this isn't the case, that we're going to be facing a medical collapse of our national healthcare system here in Taiwan.
And let's move on now to the next paragraph. It says, under the current NHI system, or in this system, hospitals apply to National Health Insurance Administration for reimbursements after they provide medical services for patients. Okay, so that's what happens here when you go to the hospital and you pay your fee. I think you pay a registration fee of 150 NT dollars or something like that. And then when you get your medicine and stuff like that, usually it doesn't cost you very much money at all, but normally that stuff is quite expensive. So the hospital has to pay for it first. So then they need to ask the NHIA, or the National Health Insurance Administration, for reimbursements. Okay, so we bought all this medication for a patients, so we're short all this money. You guys need to reimburse us. Reimburse as money just means to give us the money that we paid ahead of time, to repay us, basically, because we already spent that money. We need you to give us money to help us out here.
Yeah, if you work for a company and you go on a business trip, you usually have to pay out of your own pocket, and then when you get home from the trip, you submit your receipts to someone in your company, and they reimburse you for the money that you paid out while you were gone, for your hotel, for the cabs you took, things like that. That's reimbursing someone, and the noun is a reimbursement. So they're having to go ahead and pay for things first and then apply for reimbursements. However, because of the system's flaws, the problems in the system, hospitals and doctors have always been shortchanged. If someone shortchanges you, they cheat you by giving you insufficient money as change. For example, if you ever go to 7-Eleven and maybe you're working with someone who's nervous, maybe it's their first day on the job, sometimes they will shortchange you. Maybe they owe you 66 NT back after you give them 100 NT, but they give you 50 NT. They've shortchanged you. So these hospitals and doctors are getting shortchanged. Besides just the medicine and the equipment that they get reimbursed for, doctors' time is also reimbursed. So they're paid back through that government agency. And I don't feel like they're getting paid a fair amount either. They're pretty valuable to us.
Yep, they're getting shortchanged. The hospitals don't get enough money back from the National Health Insurance Administration, nor do the doctors. They've always been shortchanged, and this is especially unfavorable to intensive care, which is a certain section of most hospitals, the IC unit, intensive care, when somebody is really in trouble, if they're really in a life or death situation, they usually get sent to the intensive care unit. And, well, this particular situation is unfavorable to IC units. Unfavorable means that it's not in their favor. They're not getting as many things as other people are getting. So I guess they're even more shortchanged.
Yeah. Well, unlike other medical specialties, intensive care requires substantial manpower and resources. And underpaid reimbursement means intensive care is forced to operate at a loss. We'll talk about what that means. But first, let's take a look at this word specialty. This is the plural form of the word specialty. If you have a specialty, you have an area of study or you've acquired a skill, that you've devoted a lot of time to, and you're pretty darn good at it. In fact, you could be considered an expert. All hospitals have specialties. There might be a hospital that really specializes in cardiology or your heart, or maybe you go to a hospital that specializes in cancer. I had to go get checked out to see if I had cancer a couple of years ago, and I heard that there was a hospital in Beito that was they specialized in cancer, so that's where I chose to go. So you can have specialties in hospitals. Well, some specialties actually make a profit. I know there are some hospitals nowadays that have these plastic surgery units, departments where they do plastic surgery. They make a lot of profit.
Hopefully they can kind of spread that profit around to other departments there, but I don't know how they operate here. But in any case, that's an example of a specialty. But intensive care is a specialty, but this particular department requires substantial manpower and resources. Substantial means significant, quite a lot of something, large in size, etc. Substantial, a lot of manpower. Manpower just means people there to do the work, not just men, but men and women as well.
And not robots.
And not robots, although maybe they'll go that direction someday.
Yeah, but they don't call it manpower.
Yeah, would you call it robot power?
Robot power,
Maybe
technology. I don't know.
guess so, but in any case, yes, IC units need a lot of manpower and resources, all sorts of oxygen tanks and stuff like that. And underpaid reimbursement means intensive care is forced to operate at a loss. So if you're running a hospital, you know that the IC unit will be losing money. It will be operating at a loss. At a loss just means you're lacking something. It can be used in different situations. They're operating at a loss. In other words, they're losing money. You could be at a loss for words, for example. If somebody has done something to you, my best friend just went out with my girlfriend. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, some medical experts argue this situation suggests that intensive care is punished for saving lives. So the harder they work and the better they do, the more it costs them to help these people who are in intensive care, the more money they lose. So this is kind of where this sentence comes from. It's almost like the better we do, the more we'll lose money. So we're being punished for actually helping people. Yeah, that's kind of hard, isn't it? Because intensive care, wow, if you have a family member in intensive care, you so appreciate those nurses and doctors. I did. I had a sister in intensive care. And by the time she was discharged or released from the hospital, I literally loved those nurses in particular.
That's a good note to take a break on. So let's stop talking right now and listen to our beloved Chinese teacher.
Hello everyone, my name is Tina. 昨天我们提到了 overcrowding in ERs, 也就是急诊室的过度拥挤，还有其他怎么样在 medical system 医疗体制当中所暴露出来的一些缺陷呢？我们看一下第一段的第二个句子提到 It also revealed some troubling issues that could indicate a coming medical collapse. 其实这样的晨报事件呢，也显现出一些令人烦恼的问题，而这些问题 indicate 意指着呢是一个即将到来的医疗崩坏。collapse 本来可以用来当作动词解释，不过在这里是当作名词解释成为倒塌、崩溃的意思。举个例子来说，他们的计划因为缺钱而崩坏了，我们就可以说 Their project collapsed for lack of money. 当然了，我们看到健保制度似乎对一般大众来讲是非常便宜跟方便的，但是我们来看一下第二段中间提到 Unlike other medical specialties, intensive care requires substantial manpower and resources. An underpaid reimbursement means intensive care is forced to operate at a loss. 像是呢，医院有分非常多的科，但是呢，这些重症监护，也就是我们在这里提到的 intensive care， 它跟其他的 medical specialties， 跟其他的医学专科不太一样的是 intensive care 需要的是大量的人力跟资源，在这里 substantial 当作形容词，有大量的丰富的意思。而呢，相对来讲，这样子就造成 underpaid reimbursement， 其实报酬是相对的来讲是非常的低，这样子的报酬过低的给付呢，意味着多一个重症监护，就代表这是亏本的意思。At a loss 也就是有损失的意思。
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Okay, let's continue talking about some other problems with the National Health Insurance Administration here. We were talking about the fact that intensive care units seem to be getting shortchanged here. They get the short end of the stick here because they lose money and people there work really hard. They need resources and stuff like that. So it's a losing proposition, it says here. What's worse, or the thing that's worse than what we just talked about, since intensive care is seen as a losing proposition, it tends to be ignored in terms of investment. So it's seen as a losing proposition. It operates at a loss. It loses money. So hospital administrators probably are reluctant to invest any money in the IC unit. We lose money there, so why should we invest money there? What the heck? Let's suspend the money elsewhere.
Wow. Now, in terms of just means when you're talking about the subject that follows. So if we're talking about investment, it tends to be ignored. So, yeah, it's kind of hard because when you're a department that consistently loses money, people don't want to give you more money so that you can lose even more. But actually, that intensive care is probably the most important department in the whole hospital. Let's just be honest. Because it's a matter of life and death if you are admitted to intensive care. So if you're talking about investment, guys, you invest money by taking some money and giving it to somebody and hoping that in the future they give you money back and it's doubled or tripled. Wouldn't that be great? Some people like to invest in real estate in Taiwan, which is a really great investment. I don't have enough money to invest in real estate, but it's a great investment.
Yeah.
Some people invest in the stock market. I've got a place in my building where I live on the third floor. They can buy and sell stock at this place, and it's very popular.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So there are lots of ways you can invest, but of course, if you're a losing proposition, someplace where you'll never be making money, people don't want to invest in you.
And this is a bad situation all around. It goes on to say, without outside funds to supplement salary, the already underpaid personnel are put in an even worse predicament. So if you happen to be part of the personnel that works in the IC unit, doctors, nurses, physicians' assistants, everybody, anesthesiologists.
That's hard to say.
Other kinds of technicians and stuff. They can't really supplement their salary. To supplement means to give something extra to something. They have long hours there. They just don't have time to take a second job or something like that. So they just can't supplement their salary or get extra money from the hospital itself. So, again, we're talking about the personnel here. That's the whole group of people, not the individuals, okay, the personnel. They are in an even worse predicament. A predicament is a situation that usually is kind of difficult to get out of, okay? You might find yourself in a pretty embarrassing predicament, for example, if you go out and you spill food on your shirt or something and you did not bring an extra shirt. I'm in an embarrassing predicament here. I'm going to have to be seen by all these people in a dirty shirt.
Yeah, I wanted to mention, guys, that personnel is a non-count noun. It's a plural noun. It's 不可数的. And so is staff. Since staff and personnel are the same, you can interchange those two. So make sure you never say personnels. And notice that the accent is on personnel. It's not personal, it's personnel. So if you work for a personnel department, you're in HR, human resources. So ultimately, these drawbacks could result in intensive care units becoming critically understaffed, not having enough people. Ultimately, here just means at the end of all of this that we're talking about, at the end of this process, finally, we could say that these drawbacks or flaws could result in not having enough people working in these particular sections and see fewer and fewer doctors who are willing to join this particular section. You have to specialize in something as a doctor. One of my best friends is actually an ER doctor in Boston. She took that job, though, so that she'd have more regular hours so she could be with her kids. But it's a tough, tough job. There's a lot of stress, and you have to have the right personality to be an ER doctor. They're pretty special.
Indeed, and they can handle stress and all that kind of stuff. Now, moving on to the final paragraph here, it says, most people are probably unaware, or most people probably don't know, that the relatively inexpensive medical services provided by the NHI have been built on the sacrifices of hard-working medical professionals. So we probably all take this for granted. If we feel kind of sick, we can go down to a clinic and pay a little fee to get in, show our Genbao card, our insurance card and stuff like that. And we probably don't know that, hey, this system was actually built because of those hard-working medical professionals. They work long hours and they go through intensive training, and the people who train them are actually sometimes not very nice to them, and there's a lot of stress and stuff like that, and they probably never really feel totally relaxed when they go home. They're under all this pressure and stuff like that. So we have to remember that this system has been built on their sacrifices.
Yeah, we need to treat them right. The question here that comes from a veteran doctor, if you're a veteran, you're a person who's had a lot of experience in your particular field or industry. The opposite would be a rookie, someone who's brand new at something. He asks, or she asks this question, how can Taiwan's healthcare system have a bright future if its medical personnel are not properly treated? We need to treat them with a lot of respect and pay them what they deserve. That's why it's important to reform or change for the better the NHI system and pay medical professionals what they deserve. Oh, I support this. We're going to have to figure out a way to do this so that we can pay them what they deserve, but we don't bankrupt the system at the same time.
Now, here in this sentence, it says the government must also examine whether health insurance should continue to be a form of social welfare or change to an actual insurance program. So here they have to examine something. They're not taking a test here. They are just kind of looking at this and trying to make some conclusions. They need to think over this, whether health insurance should continue the way it is as a form of social welfare or whether it should change to something else. More specifically, change to an actual insurance program. Social welfare, of course, is when the government pretty much takes care of you, especially when you retire. Like in the United States, we have Social Security. You've been, spending money all your life or paying taxes to this from your job, and then you should get this money back when you retire. But if something changes to something else, it becomes something new. It's not what it was before, and in this case, it would change to an actual insurance program, just like regular insurance for everybody else, not social welfare, but actually like buying insurance.
Well, finally, officials must work at convincing the public that they need to accept higher premiums and co-payments when necessary. If you convince someone to do something, you use very good words and logical arguments to persuade them that what you want or that your idea is correct. So you're actually able to get someone to believe that what you're saying is true or real or important. So we need to convince people that sometimes we have to accept higher premiums. An insurance premium is the amount you pay every month or maybe every year. Depends on how you work it. You pay these premiums to cover the insurance that you might need to use. I think my insurance premium, at least, is quite low, quite affordable. A co-payment is your part that you pay when you go see a doctor or you go to the hospital. Or buy medicine.
Yeah.
You know, you pay part of that. That's your co-payment.
Indeed. So I guess it basically means that we need to accept these higher premiums or co-payments so that the medical services provided across the country will still be available in the future. Hopefully, all of us will realize that maybe that is the option that we need to accept. We need to help foot the bill, as we say.
Yeah.
If something is wrong with us, we need to stay out of emergency rooms if we're really not that sick. And we probably need to take better care of ourselves.
Exercise. Eat right.
Exercise more and cover your mouth when you're coughing in public.
Yeah.
And wash your hands every chance you get. Oh, there are all sorts of things you can do, but certainly we want you to remain safe so that you can continue to listen to our program. If you're sick, we don't want to talk to you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our program for today. Thanks for joining us. But before we say goodbye, we'd like to listen once again to our Chinese teacher.
接着我们来看到后面的句子提到 What's worse, since intensive care is seen as a losing proposition, it tends to be ignored in terms of investment. 提到呢，重症监护被视为是一个赔本的生意，所以呢，就往往呢就会被忽略。在这里 ignore 就是有忽略的意思。以什么观点来看呢？In terms of investment, 以投资的观点来看，当然咯，赔本的生意是没有人要做的。我们用 in terms of 以什么观点来看，造一个句子来说好了。他呢，以经验的观点来看，是合这个工作的资格的。你就可以说 She is qualified for the job in terms of experiences. 文章后面句式提到 Without outside funds to supplement salary, the already underpaid personnel are put in an even worse predicament. 如果没有外部的资金可以来补充薪水的话呢，那么其实已经是报酬过低的人员，他们被放在一个更糟糕的困境。在这里的 funds 我们用来当作名词，常用复数表达，就是有资金的意思。而如果用来当作动词 to fund an organization, 也就是指对某个机构来提供资助的意思。Personnel 在这里我们讲的是整体的工作人员，这些人员被给的薪水非常的低，所以用了 underpaid 这个形容词，而后面的名词 predicament 则是指困境或者是尴尬的处境。第三段提到 Most people are probably unaware that the relatively inexpensive medical services provided by the NHI have been built on the sacrifices of hard-working medical professionals. 这个句子很长，不过我们可以慢慢的来切割。我们讲到 be unaware that 再来加子句，就代表没有意识到后面这个名词子句。名词子句的内容提到的是呢，全民健保其实所提供的服务是相对来讲是呢低廉的医疗服务。在这里同学可以从括号 provided by the NHI 括号括起来修饰前面的 the relatively inexpensive medical services。 而有这样子低廉的服务呢，正是建立在这一群 hard-working medical professionals 勤奋的医疗专业人员的牺牲之上。而要怎么样改变呢？我们来看一下最后一句，这里提到 Finally, officials must work at convincing the public that they need to accept higher premiums and co-payments when necessary. so that the medical services provided across the country will still be available in the future. 当然，官员必须要致力于说服这些大众，他们有时候需要接受比较高的 premium保费以及 co-payments 部分负担，这样子才可以得到比较好的医疗服务。在这里的 convince 就是有说服使相信的意思。以上就是今天的课文讲解，谢谢收听。
That's all for us for today. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully all of you can remain healthy for many years to come. From all of us here at English Digest, my name is Tom.
I'm Stephanie.
Goodbye.
Bye.